On the left at the front, in the Scarlet Ferrari, René Arnoux. Behind him, Nelson Piquet. Behind Arnoux, in third fastest place, Patrick Tambay. And of course, this is what the Italians have come to see, the two Ferraris up front. In fourth fastest position, Alain Prost, the winner of the French Grand Prix. Then Riccardo Patrese in the white and blue Brabham Turbo. Alongside Patrese is Eddie Cheever. Then, just in your picture, the ATS of Manfred Winkelhock. He had trouble in the warm-up today and wasn't able to go out because of turbocharger trouble, and it's 60 laps to go. And left on the line is Nelson Piquet. Right at the beginning of the race, Nelson Piquet is left on the line, and straight up to the front go the two Ferraris of René Arnoux and Patrick Tambay. And with them, the Renault, and now Riccardo Patrese trying to go through. Well, already drama at the beginning of the San Marino Grand Prix with Riccardo Patrese in third place. Nelson Piquet is being pushed away from the line, but the brilliant Brazilian, of whom we expected so much, has really got a challenge now. He's got to fight his way up through the field against terrific odds with the two Ferraris way out in front. Riccardo Patrese in third place, and the Renault of Alain Prost in fourth position as they come through on lap one in this 60-lap race. There is Derek Warwick, who has had endless trouble in the turbocharged Tolman in practice, but qualified nevertheless in 14th position. You see Michele Alboreto, Keke Rosberg, and now this is the order then, the two Ferraris. You see them, Niki Lauda is going through well. He did much better in the warm-up today than he did in practice yesterday. And it's Arnoux, Tambay, Patrese, Prost, and that looks like Andrea De Cesaris. Indeed it is, as they come through at the end of the first lap. It's going to be turbocharged cars all the way, and as they come out of the right-hander, which leads into the start and finish straight in this 3.1-mile circuit, it is René Arnoux leading, Tambay third, Patrese fourth, Prost is in fifth position, Prost is fourth, De Cesaris fifth, then Winkelhock is in sixth position, and coming up to try and take him, Elio De Angelis in the Lotus Renault. So the two Ferraris.
Yes, great shame about Nelson Piquet being left on the grid. He did in fact get away, although he received, we understand, a push start, so that may bring him up for some discussion as to the validity of that. But he's half a lap down. But Patrese has stepped into his role and is pressuring Tambay, and in the meantime Arnoux looks quite comfortable at the front. He's got a little bit of a lead. Patrese is looking for a way around Tambay there.
And as they go up from the Acqua Minerale, you can see the lead that René Arnoux is building up, and Patrese in third position, the Italian in the Brabham BMW, who won at Monaco in a Brabham Ford last year, is really starting to crowd Patrick Tambay. Prost is still fourth. There is Andrea De Cesaris in fifth position. So the turbocharged cars are, as we expected, dominating. All these cars are going to be coming in to make refueling stops. And there is Prost in trouble already. Prost is in trouble.
Yeah, that looks like an engine blowout, yes. Or is that Cheever? That looks like Eddie Cheever. Eddie Cheever looks like... yeah, Eddie Cheever with turbocharger problem. Ignore the caption. So that's one of the Renaults gone already. Well, we've certainly got something to warm up the Italian crowd here. We've got Ferraris first and second, and Italian drivers third and fifth. So at the moment, the San Marino Grand Prix is being heavily Italian dominated, which will certainly please this capacity crowd.
This is tremendously interesting because it's very hot here at Imola, and it's going to get even hotter, and the heat adversely affects the turbocharged cars. It may be that it's the heat that is already affecting Eddie Cheever's car, and it was Eddie Cheever, because there is Tambay, and Patrese is there now. There is Patrese, followed by Tambay, followed by Alain Prost. So the Ferraris are up at the front. René Arnoux you see leading. Now, I wonder, as Eddie Cheever comes into the pits, is Riccardo Patrese who now has the hopes of the Brabham BMW team resting on his shoulders, going to be able to catch and pass René Arnoux as he got past Patrick Tambay. Well, let's see. The Brabham streaking away. This is lap 2. It's a 60-lap race. And Nelson Piquet is about 5 seconds off the pace of the leaders. So it means to say that obviously the world champion of 1981 is in trouble. So there's Arnoux, second, Patrese, third, Tambay. They're coming out of the Traguardo now into the long sweeping right-hander as they complete lap 2. And the gap between René Arnoux and Ricardo Patrese at the end of the second lap is 1.1 seconds, with Tambay in third position being crowded by Alain Prost. And in fifth position behind Alain Prost is Andrea de Chedris. Watch for him, there he is in the background, and you see Prost now right up with Tambay. And between the first and the fourth cars, with Alain Prost trying really hard, crawling all over Patrick Tambay's car, it's 2.7 seconds. Up to the Retifilio, into Toussaint, the left-hander, and at this point, they're doing nearly 180 miles an hour as they go down into second gear, accelerate away. So on this, the third lap, in the lead, René Arnoux. In second place, behind Arnoux is Ricardo Patrese. In third position is Patrick Tambay. In fourth place is Alain Prost. In fifth position, it is Andrea de Chedris. And in sixth place, it is Mauro Baldi. Seventh is world champion Keke Rosberg and the leading non-turbocharged car. That's Roberto Guerrero spinning off. Yes, that's Roberto Guerrero, the Colombian driver, on lap 3, spinning off. Prost now, look, you see, and there is Andrea de Chedris. So, as we expected in the opening stages of this 1983 San Marino Grand Prix, as they come through to complete this lap, over the line is Arnoux, then Patrese, then Tambay, then Prost. There's a bit of a gap, and the gap between the first and second cars, and that is Roberto Guerrero's Theodore, and that's a marshal, incidentally, standing there in the helmet, not Roberto Guerrero. And the gap is down to 0.8 seconds between the race leader, René Arnoux, who is leading for the second time. And you can see the gap between the third and fourth cars for yourself. It's virtually nothing, a car's length. René Arnoux leading the San Marino Grand Prix now, as he did last year, except that he has changed allegiance from that make, the Renault of Alain Prost, to the Ferrari team from Modena. And in fifth position, as you see, Andrea de Chedris. In sixth position, Mauro Baldi. So it's turbocharged cars first to sixth, and Keke Rosberg is in seventh place. Eighth is Winkelhock. Ninth is De Angelis. 10th is Nigel Mansell. In 11th position is Niki Lauda, and in 12th place, Michele Alboreto. And John Watson, for the record, is in 16th place, just one behind Derek Warwick, who is 15th in the turbocharged Tolman. Probably feeling his way around the circuit after all the problems that he had in practicing, and my goodness, he had plenty. And the battle continues. Now we are on lap 5.
Yes, Patrese finally whittled down that lead. He's now right on Arnoux's tail. Be interesting to see now as they go away down the long straight just who's got the power advantage, because Patrese will be in the slipstream of the Ferrari, but he's making very little impression, and there's no doubt that the Ferrari engine is really fabulous. They are possibly the only team with a turbocharged engine that has real reliability that they can speak of at the moment, although certainly the others are improving. BMW getting their engine a lot better. And Prost dropped back a little bit from Tambay, who's now settled in, and it looks like these four, with the Chedris lurking in the background, are really in a class of their own, because they've dropped, they've already pulled over 10 seconds on Mauro Baldi in the second of the turbocharged Alphas, and they're going away pretty effectively from the rest of the field. They're building up plenty of lead already to be able to cover their pit stops, and the normally aspirated cars, the Cosworth engine cars, are really going to be struggling here at this power circuit.
It's very significant that the Brabham is much improved from the French Grand Prix, because between France and here, the team, and there's Patrese goes through and takes the lead, and that was what we expected Nelson Piquet to be doing had he not been left. And I was saying that the Brabham is much improved, as you see it on the replay. Riccardo Patrese, lap 6, takes the lead from René Arnoux, and Patrick Tambay and Alain Prost are still fighting as they come through to complete the lap. And you can see that Prost is catching Tambay in the background there. The gap between Patrese, the leader, and the fourth place man in the background there, Alain Prost, is only 2.2 seconds. I will finish what I was saying about Brabham. It's much better because they tested at Snetterton, and they have tested at the scene of the new Belgian Grand Prix circuit at Spa. They tested for handling at Snetterton, they tested the engine at Spa, and they are now happy that the car handles as well as the old Brabham with the Ford engine. And it's getting very, very close, because it's still in 5th position Andrea De Cesaris. It's still in 6th position Mauro Baldi. This is lap 7.
Yes, Patrese is looking very comfortable now. He's pulling a little bit of a lead, and I would think that Alain Prost in 4th place will now begin to be feeling in a bit of a hurry, a bit of a pressure to get past Tambay and set about Arnoux before Patrese gets away in the Brabham, because he's undoubtedly looking a little bit superior.
29-year-old Riccardo Patrese, who comes from Padova, although he lives in Monte Carlo, and there he is, one Grand Prix victory behind him, that at Monte Carlo last year. This is his 85th Grand Prix, most of which have been in the Arrows car, but he transferred to Brabham BMW last year, and Brabham Ford he actually won with the Cosworth engine at Monaco. He's completing the lap. You can see the interval now as he's coming up to catch and lap Johnny Cicotto, the Venezuelan driver in the Theodore team. That's number 34, the ex-double motorcycle world champion Johnny Cicotto is going to be gobbled up soon by Riccardo Patrese, and that's what the numbers, incidentally, on the bottom of the screen mean. Patrese goes through. There's Arnoux, Tambay number 27, the Frenchman in the Ferrari, who won the German Grand Prix last year after his teammate Didier Pironi had been injured, and we hope we're going to be seeing Pironi back in racing, but that's the position on this lap.
Well, good example of courteous driving by Johnny Cicotto, who is exactly as one would expect, although he's not experienced in car racing. With his considerable experience on bikes, he knows not to get in the way, unlike a number of the more amateur backmarkers we get. And you see Rosberg has moved up into 6th place, leading the normally aspirated brigade of Ford engine cars, as he has done a lot. But Cicotto has really been most impressive this season so far, in his first season in Formula One motor racing, and I would say that he has a very big future.
Let your spirits soar with the handling and comfort of new Pulsar hatch. Go further with economy and power from direct drive automatic transmission. At your
plunging into the Acqua Minerale, which is an artificial chicane put in to slow down. There they are, right, left, right, the Acqua Minerale. 3rd gear, up into 4th gear, sprinting uphill to the highest point on the circuit of the Variante Alta. So there you are. There's Patrese, Arnoux, Tambay. 28, of course, is Patrick Tambay. 27 is Patrick Tambay. 28 is René Arnoux. In the lead, car number 6, Riccardo Patrese. And in 4th position, the distinctive yellow-black red and white Renault, and there it is of Alain Prost, winner of the French Grand Prix. Now, all these drivers have won Grand Prix. Patrese in the lead, won at Monaco. In second position, Arnoux won several Grand Prix. Torbay won in Germany last year, and of course, Prost has won, 6 Grand Prix now.
Yes, despite the fact he was left on the line, don't discount Nelson Piquet from at least finishing in the frame if his car holds together. He's now moved up into 15th place. He's just cleared a gaggle of back markers, and he is certainly pace with the leaders, albeit 40 seconds behind. And if he can get a clear run, his biggest problem is that he's in amongst the traffic. But having said that, with his BMW turbocharged engine, amongst mostly Cosworth-powered cars where he is at the moment in the field, he should be able to get through the traffic reasonably effectively, and he's certainly going well where he is.
As we look at the leaders, let us forecast when they are going to stop to refuel. In the lead, number 6, Riccardo Patrese, will be coming in on lap 34 or 36 of this 60-lap race. In second place, René Arnoux, that is car number 28, and so good is the Ferrari security that frankly we don't know, but it's got to be at around half distance. That applies, of course, to Patrick Tambay, but we do know when Alain Prost, number 15, is coming in, and that is on lap 32, if, of course, the team managers decide to stick to the plans that they made earlier on, and they made them to a great extent in consultation with each other, because with the amount of fuel that's going to be fed under very high pressure into these cars, something like 25 or 30 gallons of fuel will go into the cars as they change all 4 tires and wheels onto fresh rubber with a softer compound, and that will happen in the case of Brabham, if they're practicing this morning was anything to go by, in 10 seconds. I say that again, about 25 gallons of fuel, new wheels and new tires in 10 seconds. It is an incredible sight. Ferrari were taking longer this morning. They were taking about 14 seconds. And Renault are in the field, in the ball game there in terms of those times. And that is René Arnoux on lap 11 in this 60-lap San Marino Grand Prix. Patrese is leading. Arnoux is second. Tambay is third. Prost is fourth. Cesaris is fifth. Rosberg leading the non-turbo-charged brigade in his Williams Ford car is in 6th place. And up into 14th place, we haven't seen him, and we won't see him for a while, I suspect. But as James said, I'm sure we're going to see him before this race is through, and that's Nelson Piquet, the world champion of 1981, who is leading the world championship, who is therefore very hungry for points, as Mark Surer in the Arrows is in the way of Patrick Tambay, but Patrick in the much more powerful Ferrari in 3rd place will now punch his way past the Arrows, followed by Alain Prost, and that's Guerrero. That looks like, no, it's Danny Sullivan. It's Alboreto. Alboreto out of the race. We can't see the car. Sure enough, the distinctive helmet of Michele Alboreto in the Tyrrell out of the race on lap 12, and Alboreto was in 11th place. And that means to say that Mansell moves up into 11th place, Watson moves up into 12th place, Nelson Piquet moves up into 13th place, and there's a long way to go in this heat-sapping race, particularly as far as the turbos are concerned. Giro 10, that means lap 10 in the lead. Number 6, Patrese. In 2nd place, number 28, Arnoux. In 3rd position, number 27, Tambay. In 4th position, number 15, Prost. In 5th position, number 22, De Cesaris. And in 6th position, number 1, world champion, Keke Rosberg. Well, because, of course, Mark Surer held up Tambay, and there's Tambay fairly flying, and he's increased the gap between himself and Prost a bit. Prost was probably held up by Mark Surer, but I have little doubt that Patrick Tambay, who was virtually written off by Formula One some years ago, when he went away to drive in Can-Am, having previously driven for the McLaren team, then made his return to Grand Prix racing. And is this somebody? Well, there, I'm just trying, it's Niki Lauda. That's Lauda out. Well, I don't know why we're not getting shots of the cars. It almost looks as though these drivers are walking round from what we're seeing of them. But anyway, Niki Lauda, the world champion of 1975 and 1977, out of the San Marino Grand Prix on lap 13, and he was in 9th position. Obviously, I don't know the reason any more than you do, but there are the leaders.
Yeah, we do have a fairly static situation up front. There's a little bit of a gap opened, as Murray said, because Mark Scherer held up Tombe for half a lap when he was lapping him, and that looks like one of the Theodores. Yes, that's Johnny Cecotto in the pits. We can't see why, but they don't seem to be in a big panic, so that looks reasonably terminal. But as I was saying, up front we've got a pretty static situation. The cars seem very evenly matched. Patrese seems unable to get away at all from Arnoux. Tombe following on behind Arnoux is fairly evenly matched, and Prost seems at a loss to do anything more than just sort of follow and harass Patrick Tombe a bit. And there is John Watson, who is up into 11th place and making steady progress through the field, and that's Nelson Piquet right in front of Watson. So Piquet's got past Watson, but Piquet's progress is not quite as rapid as I expected, or as it was. I think he slowed down. He may possibly have gone very hard on his tyres and got them a little bit hot, because he was certainly going better a few laps ago, and as I say, his progress has now ceased. Anyway, back to the leaders, and if this situation holds, then we're going to have a very exciting pit stop situation, because we're going to have to a couple of seconds gained or lost in the pits could change the whole character of the race after half distance, so long as these four stay as evenly matched as they currently appear to be.
Lap 14, and we look at the second place man, René Arnoux, chasing the leader, Riccardo Patrese, uphill from the Acqua Minerale, and behind them, Patrick Tombe. Those are the first two. They go under the bridge to the Variata Alta, now downhill to the Rivazza, the double left-hander, third gear, 125 miles an hour. And on now, lap 14, Riccardo Patrese leads. René Arnoux is second. Patrick Tombe is still third, ahead of Alain Prost fourth. Fifth is Andrea De Cesaris, all those five in turbocharged cars. In sixth position, number one, Keke Rosberg in the Williams Ford. In seventh place, the second Euro Racing Alfa Turbo, Mauro Baldi. Ninth is Elio De Angelis in the Lotus Renault. Then Jacques Lafitte and John Watson is coming up well. Niki Lauda, I remind you, out of the race. Alboreto out of the race. Guerrero out of the race. So is Eddie Cheever. And Nelson Piquet is fairly charging up through the field and is now in 10th position. Lap 15, you see the lap 13, Giro 13 positions there. And Arnoux with the Italian crowd waving him on. They are literally agog with excitement, wanting to see a Ferrari win. René Arnoux, who drove so brilliantly last year, is now holding that second position behind Riccardo Patrese in the very much improved Brabham, and that looks like Nelson Piquet. Is it Nelson Piquet? No, it's Jacques Lafitte going through. That's Jacques Lafitte, who is in 9th position, the man who's finished in the points in every Grand Prix, all three of them so far this year. And there is Elio De Angelis, number 11, chasing Mauro Baldi. That's a Euro Racing Alpha, the red and white car. And number 11 is De Angelis, whose engine blew in the warm-up period. He was due to refuel. He's on brand new Pirelli tyres, which have been redesigned and much improved since the French Grand Prix. And De Angelis is now going through without a refueling stop, where he had originally intended to come in on lap 29. And he's chasing Mauro Baldi, who is in 7th place, just off the leaderboard. Arnoux and Tombe. And Patrese is building up a lead now, no doubt about it. They are on lap 16 in this 60-lap race, and Patrick Tombay is fastest, 1:36.2, and that compares with Pironi's lap record last year of 1:35.04 in the skirted Ferrari. And Patrick Tombay has pulled well clear of Alain Prost. And it really does look as though Renault, who had such terrible luck last year with engine after engine blowing up, and who had hoped by virtue of the fact that they introduced turbos to Grand Prix racing to get an advantage over the competition, have lost that advantage because now the Brabham turbos seem to be faster and more reliable. Certainly the Ferraris are more reliable and are now faster. There's the second place man and the third place man. Lap 16, René Arnoux. There is Patrese leading, and René Arnoux has got Patrick Tombay coming up behind him. And at one time, not so very long ago, Tombay was a good 3 seconds behind his teammate, René Arnoux. Two Frenchmen in the Italian Ferrari team. Giro 15 here on your screens, and we're now on Giro 16, lap 16, with 6 Patrese, 28 Arnoux, 27 Tombay, 15 Prost, 22 De Cesaris, 1 Keke Rosberg, 23 Baldi, and then number 11, who is Elio De Angelis. That is the order as Tombay crosses the line to complete his 16th lap out of 60.
Yes, good effort by Elio De Angelis, because it's not always easy to jump straight into a spare car. His engine, in fact, or his turbocharger blew up on the warming up lap for the race, so he had to come into the pits. He got the car around to the pits and jump into a spare car, and it's pretty unsettling making a switch. And although the spare car obviously is set up as near enough exactly as the race car, they're never quite the same, and you're obviously more familiar with the car that you've qualified in. But whether he'll be able to go the distance, because that particular car, the spare car he's driving, is not set up and equipped for refueling. On the other hand, I would think that we will have a job having enough fuel in it to go the distance, but we will see.
There's Patrese, and he has just lapped, as you saw, Manfred Winkelhock in the ATS BMW, the German. He's in 20th position. So Patrese is going through the field. Now Arnoux is taking Winkelhock as Patrese brakes hard, goes into the left-hander there. He's at the Rivazza, which is a 125-mile-an-hour course. Now he comes into the Traguardo, which is right, left, left, right, into the straight to complete his 17th lap out of 60, leading René Arnoux, Patrick Tombay, Alain Prost, De Cesaris in the Alpha, number 22, number 1, Keke Rosberg. And where is Nelson Piquet now? The answer is he's in 10th position. Piquet, who was left on the line at the start, has come up through the field. He's in 10th place. We haven't seen him on the screen at all. Patrick Tombay has now got ahead of Manfred Winkelhock, who is 20th. And there is Alain Prost in comparative terms, and I do emphasize the word comparative, struggling along behind the 2 Ferraris and the sole Brabham BMW there of Riccardo Patrese. Patrese crosses the line. The gap between himself and the second place man, René Arnoux, is 3.2 seconds. And there you saw Patrick Tombay, and that is Prost. There's Tombay, number 27. Here is Prost. And all these 4 are pulling away now. Alain Prost is some 14 or 15 seconds ahead of... no, he's now 20 seconds ahead of Andrea De Cesaris, who is in 5th position. And we wait now as Piquet moves up into 9th position. I can tell you from our lap chart, although you don't see him. So the Brabham BMWs there of Patrese and to be seen Nelson Piquet are in 1st and 9th position. And I would have expected Nelson Piquet to be the fastest man on the circuit. But now that he's got past the tail-enders and midfield men from his last away start, he's got the hard job of catching the quick men at the front. Do you notice a lot of difference, James, when you're getting past the tail-enders and the midfield men, and then you've got the problem of getting past the quick ones?
Yes, well, certainly. I mean, of course, it's always a problem to overtake, and Piquet's got Baldi and De Angelis in his sight. Now, he's not far behind them. Then he's got a big gap, so he'll be, once he can dispose of them, he'll be well happy to have a clear track in front of him to set about it. But in fact, well, he was certainly in the early stages of the race the quickest man on the circuit, because he was holding pace with the leaders as well as passing people. But since he got sort of out of the traffic, he seems to have slowed down a bit relatively, and I think maybe with all the flurry and scurry of getting left on the line, that he may have gone just a little bit hard and got his tyres a little bit hot, because this can happen. The weather, the track will be getting hotter and hotter. It's a beautiful day here for watching, but pretty hot for the drivers out there and pretty hot for the cars. And the tyre temperatures go higher and higher, and of course when the tyres reach a certain point, and then they start to lose adhesion.
Patrese. And I wonder whether there have been any changes to the previous decisions about refueling. We are, I would imagine, without a doubt, going to see Patrese come in on his scheduled lap, which is either lap 34 or lap 36. Alain Prost is due to come in about that time, and that could well change the course of the race, because if anybody does anything wrong, and there are at least, believe it or not, 10 men working on each car when they refuel. The Brabham has got inbuilt power jacks which are operated by air pressure, unlike the other cars, all of which will have hand lift jacks, one at the back and one at the front. So there's men to operate the jacks. There are at least there's two men on each wheel. Ferrari have got a most incredible drill where one man removes the nut, and there is René Arnoux into the pits. Now, this is going to be the first tyre change, just as I was talking about it. René Arnoux on lap 21 in 2nd place. You see the fuel in, you see the identically garbed Ferrari mechanics. Up go the pneumatic spanners to indicate that down go the jacks. Out comes the fuel line, off goes René Arnoux. You see 16 seconds, it depends when you take it. I made it 17.4.
That was interesting in that the fuel appeared to be the longest section of the stop. I noticed that all 4 corner men, the mechanic, when he's changed the wheel, in order to indicate that his corner is ready to go, he raises his pneumatic wheel hammer above his head, and they were all finished before the fuel line came off. So there is René Arnoux. Now he is on fresh tyres. He'll be taking a lap or two to get those warmed up, so he'll be slithering about a little bit, getting the feel of them, because the car always feels rather different when you've just put a new set of tyres on. But that was, I wonder, I can't see any obvious tactics there, but that was a very early fuel stop, so Arnoux is now running at more than half tanks full.
René Arnoux, as you see, rejoins in 4th position. He was passed by Tombay, his teammate. He was passed by Prost. And so, now, on lap 21, with René Arnoux having refueled his Ferrari, Riccardo Patrese is leading. Patrick Tombay is in 2nd place. In 3rd position is Alain Prost. 4th is René Arnoux. 5th is De Cesaris. 6th is Keke Rosberg, and in 7th place behind Keke Rosberg, De Angelis. Then 8th, Baldi. Up to 9th position, Piquet. 10th is John Watson. 11th is Mansell. Down to 12th place has gone Lafitte. Still in 13th is Derek Warwick. And in 14th place, Chico Serra. Patrick Tombay now 2nd. Behind him, you will see in a moment, there is the leader. You would have seen Alain Prost, who's now in 3rd position. And the excitement in this race situation now is going to be when Riccardo Patrese comes into the pits for his refueling on lap 34 or 36. How is his time compare with that of Arnoux? If the Brabham mechanics are as quick in the race at refueling and changing wheels and tyres as they were in practicing this morning, I would expect him to be in, stopped and away in 10 seconds, believe it or not, in which case he would gain 6 seconds on René Arnoux, but we will see. And there's some time before we expect that to happen. This is lap 22. We would expect Patrese to come in on lap 32 or maybe lap 34. Patrese leads, Tombé second, Prost third. Shall I come through, John? Well, we have lost our picture here at Imola. We know that there are dramatic things happening. I will tell you from the computer readout what the situation is. It's still Riccardo Patrese leading. It's still Patrick Tombé in second place with Prost third, De Cesaris in fourth position. So René Arnoux has gone down to fifth place, presumably because De Cesaris caught him while Arnoux is driving on coldish tyres. And Rosberg is sixth.
Yes, I would expect Arnoux to restore that as soon as he's got his tyres warmed up and got comfortable. He came out of the pits just in front of De Cesaris, and De Cesaris, as you rightly say, caught him when he was still getting the feel of the new tyres and getting the temperature into him.
He's going back, he's got his pictures back. Hang on back for a second.
Well, we've got our pictures back again here, so we can at least see what's going on, which I think you've probably had the advantage over us at home. And there you see Patrick Tombé right in the thick of the back markers. Patrese will be very grateful that he had enough of a lead not to be threatened by Tombé with back markers. Just that little cushion of 5 seconds, and now, of course, Tombé is having to fight his way through. But that's one of the beauties and niceties of having a turbocharged engine. When you get amongst the traffic, you've at least got a little bit more power to punch your way past them.
As Riccardo Patrese comes up to complete his 24th lap, and he's only got a few to go before his fuel stop. Let's bring you quickly back into the picture by telling you that he is now leading Patrick Tombé by 5 seconds. Alain Prost is 8 seconds behind Tombé in third position. In fourth position now behind Patrick Tombé, in third position it's Alain Prost. In fourth is De Cesaris, fifth is René Arnoux. It's still Keke Rosberg in sixth place as Riccardo Patrese goes through, and the gap between himself and Patrick Tombé is only 2.3 seconds. So that's Patrese. This is lap 25, and Tombé is definitely catching Riccardo Patrese. Watch for the blue and white Brabham as he comes under the Adjet Bridge. There is the Derek Warwick Tolman, and then one of the Ligiers, and Patrick Tombé has got to pass the Ligier. I think it's Raoul Bercel, and then he's got to pass Warwick. There there is Patrese. Tombay has got to pass the Ligier and Warwick before he can get to grips with Patrese, who's making the most of this opportunity. You see the blue flags waving furiously in the background. That means move over and let the quicker man pass you.
Yes, Patrese had a little bit of trouble passing them, and I think Tombay is going to restore the gap back, because the two back markers in front don't seem to be being as helpful as they really probably should be, in view of the fact that they're involving themselves in the struggle for the lead.
Riccardo Patrese then coming down to the Rivazza at the end of his 25th lap to go into the Variante Bassa, into the Trequardo. Number 6, Patrese leads. Number 27, Tombay is in second position. And as Riccardo Patrese, the man from Padova and Monte Carlo, completes his 25th lap, here is the race order. Patrese leads. That is Warwick, and behind Warwick it's Jarier, and then is the second place man, Patrick Tombay, who's taking Jarier, who caused a lot of problems by balking people in practice, and he was a very unpopular driver, but he didn't balk Patrick Tombay, who's passed him. There is Patrese, the leader. In third position, it's still Prost. In fourth position, it's still De Cesaris. In fifth position, Arnoux. Sixth, Rosberg. And up to seventh place now has come Nelson Piquet on lap 26 out of 60. And Riccardo Patrese, and as they cross the line, the gap is just about 3.5 seconds. There is Prost in the yellow and black car in third position, coming up behind Chico Serra, and that is Danny Sullivan in the green car. Andrea De Cesaris, number 22, is well down the field, being caught by the Ferrari.
Yes, you see René Arnoux right behind De Cesaris there, and he's been stuck there for several laps now and seems unable to pass De Cesaris, and I dare say that will be frustrating him quite considerably, because that means that De Cesaris is in fourth. They're battling for fourth place. Arnoux is fifth, but remember that Arnoux has already made his pit stop. He was the first of the scheduled callers, and we anticipate De Cesaris to go in due course, but I'm sure Arnoux would like to find a way around him and get on in chasing the leaders, trying to reduce that deficit so that he's ready to strike when they make their stops.
Well, the Alpha pit stop situation is actually wrapped in mystery. I think they're going to come in and change tyres, probably, but I don't think they're going to refuel. But since changing tyres now seems to take longer than taking on as much as 25 gallons of fuel, it won't necessarily alter the situation. And let me correct myself, Andrea De Cesaris, of course, is not well down the field. Indeed, he's in fourth place. He got ahead of René Arnoux when Arnoux went into the pits. And now, on lap 28, it is that man, Riccardo Patrese, leading, Patrick Tombay second, Prost is third, so it is Brabham BMW, Ferrari, Renault. In fourth position, it's Andrea De Cesaris in the Alpha, in fifth position, and there is Prost into the pits. Right, now you can see the difference, and you can see the seconds ticking away. René Arnoux took 16 seconds. Alain Prost is, or was, in third position. The hoses are clear. The jacks go out and away. In 16.4 seconds goes Alain Prost, who was, as I say, in third position when he came into the pits. He was a long way ahead of Andrea De Cesaris, so De Cesaris will still be fourth, and Alain Prost is holding his third position. And like René Arnoux, Alain Prost is on fresh tyres. René Arnoux on fresh Goodyear tyres, Alain Prost on fresh Michelin tyres. There is Patrick Tombay, who has yet to come in and must surely come in very soon to make his pit stop, because this is lap 28, and his teammate René Arnoux went in 7 laps ago on lap 21. So let's watch very closely. Patrick Tombay and De Cesaris has stopped in the pit. We haven't seen it, but De Cesaris, who was in fourth position, came into the pits, and that will therefore affect his race position. as we look down on John Watson now, as Patrese comes up to take the Nigel Mansell. Mansell is in 12th position, so Patrese has lapped Mansell, who is 12th, and he is about to lap John Watson, who is in 11th place. That's Peggy Rosberg, who is 5th now, because he's ahead of Andrea De Cesaris as a result of the Italian and the Alfa Romeo going into the pits. And we are looking at the battle between John Watson, who is 11th, and Nigel Mansell, who is in 12th position. Off goes Cecotto. Cecotto has gone out of the race. This is a bad race for Theodore, because now on lap 29, Johnny Cecotto, the Venezuelan, goes off but drives on mysteriously. I think he's just parking the car safely.
Yes, can't work out what he's doing. I think he may be found. And Alan Prost, pit stop was pretty good. He lost only the one position to René Arnoux, and that's so their pit stops were of a similar length actually stopped, and the result's the same because he has rejoined something like 6 seconds behind René Arnoux, which is about where they had been relatively until Arnoux stopped. So no real change out of the first two pit stops that we've seen, but we still have the two front men, Riccardo Patrese, who we see here leading the race. He has yet to stop, and so of course is Patrick Tambay, and a big pressure moment for both of their pit crews. The Brabham team has done a lot of work on their refueling and tire changing efficiency. They've practiced an awful lot and got it down to a fine art in dry runs, but dry runs are one thing, and the real thing with hot hubs, hot wheels, and the general panic pressure of the race only needs a little mistake. Oh dear!
That is Derek Warwick. Derek Warwick has gone off in a big way on the Tolman, and you can see that he's all right, and he disgustedly throws his steering wheel into the car, and I should think Derek will be heartily pleased that the San Marino Grand Prix of 1983 is over for him. He's had just about everything that could possibly go wrong with his car go wrong with it. He's had ignition trouble, he's had turbocharger trouble, he's had gearbox trouble, he had a fire in the cockpit, and now he's gone off and is out of the race on lap 30 in this 60-lap race. So only half of it run for Warwick. And Patrese is on his way, and he's catching now Jacques Lafitte, the Frenchman in the Williams Ford. And Jacques Lafitte is in 10th position as we look at lap 30. Now let's see how the turbocharged Brabham goes compared with the great Jacques Lafitte's Williams, and the answer is very well indeed, because they're coming through now, as far as Piquet is concerned, to complete his 30th lap. It's not going to be very long now before he comes in to make his pit stop, I'm sure. Another couple of laps or so. And look at the gap he's pulled out between himself and Jacques Lafitte, therefore, who has been lapped in 10th position. And as we look at Patrese on lap 31, into the pits comes Nigel Mansell. Now, this is interesting. This is the first time that the John Player Special Team have made a pit stop in Grand Prix, and they've got a gravity-fed fuel system as opposed to the pressurized systems of all the other teams, and it looks like a pretty good stop. Well, it's as good as the others. 16.4 seconds for Nigel Mansell, 16.4 seconds, exactly the same as Alain Prost, a whisker slower than that of René Arnoux, and he did it on lap 31. Nigel Mansell is driving the DFY Ford-powered car, unlike his teammate, Elio De Angelis. And Angelis is driving the V6 turbocharged Renault engine, the JPS. And here's Rosberg in 5th position, now making his pit stop. Remember, he had a flash fire in Brazil. The Williams team have been practicing very hard indeed in their distinctive outfits. It's making Grand Prix racing even more colourful than it was before. And they've got to try and beat a time of about 16 seconds, and they've done it. That's the quickest pit stop we've had. Rosberg, 14.1.
Yes, terrific stop by the Williams team at last, because they had a bit of they had a wheel not seat right in France when they did their stop, and that's the first totally successful one that they've done, and how well they did it. In fact, it could have been a little bit quicker. I think everybody was ready, and Rosberg was a little bit slow away. Now, for those of you who are wondering why this sudden passion for pit stops has taken root, there are two reasons, or rather there's one reason, and the simple, straightforward reason is because by running the car in such a way that you stop at half distance, the car can be significantly faster for two reasons. One is you can run a softer compound of tyre because it's only got to do half a race and not a whole race, so the softer rubber gets more grip, although it wears faster and tends to get hotter, not as durable, so they can go faster for that time. And the other major factor, possibly even more important, is of course that it's come because the turbocharged cars are so thirsty on fuel. Their fuel consumption is very high indeed, and they need something like 50 gallons or as much as 50 gallons to go the 200 miles of a Grand Prix. And the cars with that amount of weight, it increases the weight of the car by over 50% again when you put 50 gallons of fuel in, and the car really feels like a bit of a tank and behaves like a bit of a tank. But Tracy's scrabbling his way through past De Angelis. He makes it a little bit fraught there. De Angelis doesn't make it. De Angelis, a little mistake there. Slid wide, but without damage. Just a little bit of fun. Oh dear, yeah. Don't get much grip on that nice lush grass, I can tell you that for nothing. But he held it all together. So the cars are that much lighter, and oh, here we see it again. Action replay to the crowd, and right beside and Patrick Tambay is just coming into the pits. Here is Patrick Tambay. Let's see how Ferrari are doing it. We haven't got our little clock in the corner. There it goes. You see, no panic, nice and cool and calm. That's the way to do it. And a very quick one. We got one wheel still struggling on the left front. Oh, and they were nearly finished after about 11 seconds, and then a bit of a slow one with the right front wheel there on Tambay. But still 15 seconds, that's as good as anybody, and that should keep Patrick Tambay well up there. So basically the pit stop are to run the car in a faster configuration than you could if you set the car up to do the full distance. And what you do is you calculate that although they only take 15 seconds approximately, as we've seen on these stops, to do all the work, there is a decelerating and accelerating time, and on the road they reckon to lose something like 25 to 30 seconds. So it's a question of whether on, say, a 60-lap race, you've got to run half a second a lap faster in that configuration to end up in the same thing if you spend 30 seconds on your total loss in the pits. But they find that by running the car half full of fuel and with two sets of tyres rather than one, they can make a considerable improvement on that with the speed. They can run probably over a second a lap quicker.
You are looking at the 1981 world champion Nelson Piquet. The race has been transformed. The Brazilian who got away last after not starting properly is now coming up through the field, and that's Mauro Baldi stopping, and you'll notice that they are refueling. The Alfa Romeo team too have never done a pit stop before. The fastest pit stop we've had so far is that of Keke Rosberg, 14.1 seconds. This is very good considering it's their first race stop, but the jacks are still held. There is a problem, and Mauro Baldi with the left front wheel stationary because they were having trouble getting the nut tied up, has taken by far the longest pit stop of all, 24 seconds. And I was talking about Nelson Piquet. Well, he got away last. He is now up to 5th position, would you believe, because Riccardo Patrese, as we look at his teammate Nelson Piquet, who has yet to make a pit stop, is leading. Patrick Tambay has made his pit stop and is second. René Arnoux has 2. In 4th place is Prost, and 5th is Piquet, 6th is Chesleris.
Yes, bear in mind, of course, that we expect Piquet also to stop in the pits, so his position is, shall we say, falsely elevated for the time being, in that he's one of the later pit callers. So now it's the two Brabhams, really, to complete the front runners to come into the pits, and all eyes will be on the Brabham pit to see what they can do.
We are now on lap 34, and the two Brabhams were scheduled to come in on laps 32 and 34. Well, neither of them have come in yet, and there is Patrese, the race leader, on lap 34. Stop! The second pick away. The fuel is going in 50 pounds pressure. The wheels are on. They've got to beat a fastest time of Keke Rosberg, 14.1. Right front is on, and it's a slow stop compared with some of the others. They're on a pneumatic jacking system, and Patrese is losing time. Patrick Tambay will be into the lead.
Yeah, the right rear wheel wasn't going on well, and I have to say I spotted a mistake by Riccardo Patrese in the pits. I don't know whether you noticed it at home, but his left rear wheel was turning, which meant that he hadn't got his foot on the brake when the car was on the jack. And that makes it very difficult for the mechanics to work. And rule number one for a driver, because even though the car's in neutral, the transmission chain tends to just turn the wheels a little bit. And Patrese should have kept his foot on the brake, and it's hard to say whether that had anything to do with the difficulty that the mechanics were having with the right rear wheel. But if that was the case, Riccardo would have only himself to blame, but that should liven up the race, because a bit of extra time there should bring him back onto Tambay, and we'll have to just see how they settle to see if Tambay has in fact emerged in the lead.
And while Nelson Piquet is going round, he is on lap 35. This is a 60-lap race, and the pit stops are certainly adding a lot of drama and excitement to Grand Prix racing. There is a lot of contention and discussion in the Grand Prix world, because a lot of people think it is very dangerous. There is, of course, a danger of fuel under pressure being sprayed around. We're looking at Nelson Piquet, who's come up from last to fifth, and he must be due for a pit stop. And if you wonder, by the way, what the flashes of flame are that you're seeing from the Brabham BMWs, especially for Patrese, and there, Nelson Piquet, the answer is that they're turbocharged cars. You sometimes get some rich mixture left in the exhaust pipe and it catches fire, but it's perfectly all right. Nelson Piquet, fifth place. And we are on lap 36, and in the lead is still Patrick Tambay. In second position, Riccardo Patrese. In third place is René Arnoux. In fourth place is Alain Prost. Fifth is Nelson Piquet. In sixth position, Andrew de Cesaris. Then seventh, Lafitte. Eighth, Rosberg, who is pit stopped. Ninth, De Angelis. 10th, John Watson. 11th, Jarier. And in 12th position, Mauro Baldi, who, of course, has also pit stopped. And there is the new race leader, number 27, on lap 36, Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari. Tambay in the Ferrari, catching Jarier in the Ligier.
Yes, Piquet is going to drop probably one place when he pits. De Cesaris is only 5 seconds behind him, and he for sure will make up that place, but he may be able to stay in front of Lafitte, who's something like just over 30 seconds behind him. There's Patrick Tambay, who's assumed the lead after Riccardo Patrese's rather slow stop, but we'll have to just let him settle before we can get a gap.
I am watching, as you are, Riccardo Patrese. We've got another car into the pits, and this time it is Jacques Lafitte. Let's have a look at the second Williams stop and see how it compares with Keke Rosberg's time, which is still the fastest, 14.1 seconds. The Williams team of mechanics, and already up go the hammers, out goes the jack, stop, and it's quicker by 1/10 of a second than Rosberg.
Well done, the Williams team. They've now obviously got their act together after rather a slow start at getting the hang of it, and that's two really first-rate stops. Very efficient, no panic, no flat, and there's Patrick Tambay coming up behind John Watson, and just going to power past him with that enormous power advantage of the turbocharged engine.
Lap 37, and the possible advantage that we were expecting the Marlboro McLaren cars to have of going through non-stop has been denied them, because, as you see, Patrick Tambay there, number 27, race leader, on his way to his second Grand Prix victory, as into the pits comes Nelson Piquet. Now, the Brabham team have been tremendously fast and setting the standard in the past. You can't see a digital clock because there isn't one, but I've got my stopwatch running. There it is, and away goes Piquet, and by far the fastest, 11.2 seconds, and Piquet will be in his fifth place, retaining it, and now on fresh rubber. Now, the gap between Patrick Tambay and Nelson Piquet is a very considerable one. It's about 50 seconds, and it's inconceivable that even somebody like Piquet, world champion of 1981, can catch Tambay unless the Frenchman in the Ferrari has trouble.
Yes, that was 50 seconds before the stop, so it's going to be even bigger. But as they've now settled, Patrese is some 10 seconds behind Patrick Tambay. Now, in the first half of the race, as it were, the pre-pit stop section, the Ferrari of Tambay and the Brabham BMW of Patrese were very evenly matched indeed, with, if anything, the slight edge going to Patrese. So it'll be interesting to see if Patrese can re-stamp his authority, and if changing tyres in the pit stops made any difference to the performance. But it looks as if potentially we've got a big battle for Patrese to try and chip away that lead. He's already reduced it by about a second since we last put the clock on it, and so we'll see. It would appear that he's closing, but of course Tambay's had back markers to contend with. He's got another one in front of him now, and of course that sometimes gives a rather false reading of the relative performances, and he's being a little bit held up there by the Lotus of De Angelis, is it? Yeah, and De Angelis, of course, also has a turbo engine, but Tambay was a match for that. And this is indeed exciting, because it looks as if we're on schedule for some sort of a grandstand finish if the pattern continues, because not only is Patrese catching Tambay, but Arnoux is catching as well. So let's hope we're going to get a concertina effect up to the leader and have a real battle to the line.
I haven't told you, incidentally, that Corrado Fabi is also out of the race in the Osella. His teammate Ginzani tested and drove the Osella with the V12 Alfa Romeo engine, but didn't qualify. And out of the race now are Eddie Cheever, Roberto Guerrero, Michele Alboreto, Niki Lauda, Johnny Cicotto, Derek Warwick, Corrado Fabi, all of them, as far as we know, perfectly okay. And we look at race leader Patrick Tambay on lap 39, coming through to complete it as he whistles through the Triguardo at about 95 miles an hour. The gap on the previous lap between himself and the second place man, Riccardo Patrese, was 7.8 seconds. There is Patrese, the third of these cars, and he's being held up by Watson and Jarier. The gap is 7.2 seconds into the pits. There comes Elio De Angelis, and he's just going to change tyres, you notice, because he's in the T car, he's in the spare car, 93T, that means the spare car, on account of the fact that his race car engine was blown in the warm-up. And Elio De Angelis pops and bangs his way with a thunderous round of backfires. And that is the second Tyrrell. That is Danny Sullivan's car. Danny Sullivan has gone off where Derek Warwick went off. In fact, absolutely looks as though he's gone into him from here.
It's a rather neat bit of parking, but Danny Sullivan, thankfully, looks perfectly all right, walking away from the crashed car, looking relatively unconcerned. And that is René Arnoux, who must be only just out of sight of... Yes, you can see Patrase's car just disappearing on ahead. There's a couple of back markers to be lapped in between. Now we've seemed to have got an interesting study of an empty track, but hopefully we'll see something in a minute. Yep. And back to Patrick Tambay, who is now under real pressure as his lead is slowly chipped away by his pursuing teammate and Patrese in between them.
This is the race leader completing his 40th and 2/3 distance lap. It is, of course, Patrick Tambay, and we are wondering whether Riccardo Patrese is catching. Yes, indeed he is. Riccardo Patrese has got the gap down. There's René Arnoux, who is in third position in the Scarlet Ferrari, and he's catching up and taking, first of all, Jean-Pierre Jarier in the Ligier. Now René Arnoux catching John Watson as we look at the race leader, Patrick Tambay. Is he going to get past those two tail-enders as he goes up to the crest of the Rettifilio, down to the Tosa? In front of him, he has got Keke Rosberg, who is in 7th place, 20 Giri al Termine, which means 20 laps to go.
And a good view of Rosberg's car. You could actually see it go light over the crest there at the Rettifilio as he came onto the brakes. You could see the car come up on the suspension. It goes very light for the driver, and it was snaking a little bit under braking. And Tombay's got a little bit of a block there, but he's... Oh, and Winkelhock didn't see him, that was for sure. He didn't let him through, and Tombay won't be very pleased with that. And really the standard of driving amongst them, well, Winkelhock's clocked it now, but that was already considerably too late, and there could have been an accident involved, because he just moved over onto Tombay. And really the standard of driving or mirror watching by some of these back markers is really very poor indeed, and I can't tell you how frustrating it is for a leading driver. But Rosberg, as he's used to leading and being frustrated by back markers, it's interesting to see that the experienced drivers don't get in the way. They don't interfere with back markers because they are used to having that problem themselves, and they know how frustrating it is. And the Ferrari will power past. Rosberg, you see, saw him, made room.
Well, in getting past Rosberg and Winkelhock, Patrick Tombay has lost time. The gap between himself and the second place man on lap 42 out of 60, and the second place man is Riccardo Patrese, is down to 4.9 seconds, and there is Patrese. Now, if Patrese can get cleanly past Winkelhock and Rosberg, and there you see him catching Winkelhock as he climbs the Rettifilo, and there is the race leader, Patrick Tombay, it will give Patrese, who is now the fastest man on the track, 1 minute 35.9, which is 0.9 seconds outside Pironi's 1982 lap record with the skirted Ferrari, the chance to close the gap even further between himself and Patrick Tombay. Now Tombay is on his way up to the Variata Alpha. Jarier has come into the pits beneath us, but this is the interest. There is Keke Rosberg, who is in 7th place, and on lap 42 out of 60, Tombay leads. Patrese is closing. That is Tombay that you're looking at. Arnoux in the second Ferrari is 3rd. Prost is 4th still. 5th is De Cesare, 6th is Piquet, 7th is Rosberg, 8th is Watson, and so on. And now look for the red and Ferrari. There is Tombay. Now look for the white and blue Brabham. There is Patrese just rounding the right-hander, and the gap is 4.2 seconds. But Patrese has got ahead of Winkelhock. Now he's closing up on the 7th place man, Keke Rosberg, on lap 43, and there are still 17 laps to go.
Yes, you want to catch him now on the long straight to get past him before they get to the twisty section, but even so, he will, if he doesn't make it now, he'll be able to out-drag him up the hill to the Rettifilo.
There's Prost going through. He has now lapped Keke Rosberg. Well, all that Rosberg can hope for now, he's in 7th place as we look at Tombay, the leader. The distance, confirmation of what I just said to you, between race leader number 27, Patrick Tombay, and number 6, Riccardo Patrese, 4.12 seconds. Patrese having lost time, that awful, the slowest pit stop of all, 23.6 seconds, compared with Patrick Tombay's 15 seconds. So Tombay was nearly 9 seconds faster on the pit stop, and he fairly surges past Nelson Piquet. That's Piquet slowing down, and he was in 6th position.
Yeah, Piquet would appear to be in some sort of trouble, whether he's going to make it around to the pits, but that looks like the end of an unhappy day for Nelson Piquet, or certainly as far as featuring in the results is concerned. And there in the background, you just saw Patrese right up Rosberg's exhaust. He's going to have to get past him, but he's got a chance now as they go way past the pits onto the long straight. So there goes Rosberg just in front of Riccardo Patrese, but I don't think Patrese will have any problem in just driving past him on the long straight now.
Well, as we look at Arnoux catching Winkelhock, Arnoux in the white helmet into the pit, sure enough comes Nelson Piquet, and on lap 44, the gap between the race leader Patrick Tombay and Riccardo Patrese had increased to 4.8 seconds, and it rather looks as though Nelson Piquet's race is run on lap 44, and we look at now Patrick Tombay. Well, as James said, tragic luck for Nelson Piquet, who was very confident of victory in this much improved Brabham of his. And, well, 6.1 seconds is Patrick Tombay on his way to his 2nd Grand Prix win in his career. Number 27 And if he wins, I cannot tell you how emotional it is going to be here at the Dino Ferrari circuit at Imola, because it was in 1982 that the late and very great Gilles Villeneuve, the French-Canadian, who had the affection of the Italian crowd as very few drivers have ever had before, finished second in his last ever Grand Prix to his teammate Didier Pironi in most acrimonious circumstances. And Patrick Tambay was his great friend. Now, Villeneuve was famous for carrying number 27. There was a lot of discussion about whether that number would be withdrawn from racing as a mark of respect to Villeneuve. But in the end, it was given to Tambay. There's Patrese in second place. And if Tambay wins for Ferrari, carrying the Gilles Villeneuve number, the emotional atmosphere at Imola of the Dino Ferrari circuit, named after the late son of the great Enzo Ferrari himself, will be absolutely immeasurable. And Tambay is now on lap 45 out of 60. As you see, the gap is 6.4 seconds between himself and the second place man, Patrese.
Yes, well, Patrese suddenly dropped back. Having got past Keke Rosberg, he seems to be going backwards, and we'll have to keep looking to see why, because there doesn't appear to be anything outwardly wrong. I don't suppose that Tambay speeded up by that much, but one is suspicious that Patrese might be running into some sort of trouble.
They're on different makes of tyre. That's something that you always tend to think about these days. What is the tyre situation? Because it is so important in Grand Prix racing. There is Tambay down to the Rebuzza, the double left-hander, which they take in third gear at about 125 miles. That's Patrese. His car looks okay. He's closing up on one of the John Player specials. It's that of Nigel Mansell, actually, as Patrick Tambay comes through the Traguardo to complete his 45th lap. 15 laps to go at the end of this one. I'll tell you what the gap is. Tambay goes through. There is Patrese, held up again. I think he's not having the best of luck, but the Nigel Mansell moves over. Well, Patrese is catching, actually, a bit. It's down to 6.5 seconds, and it's lap 46 with 14 to go at the end of this one. Tambay leading by about 6 seconds. Patrese second. In third position is Arnoux. Ferrari's first and third. Prost in the Renault fourth. De Cesaris in the Alfa is in fifth position. Keke Rosberg is now in the World Championship points as a result of Piquet going out. And Rosberg must be hoping just for that 1 point. Keke Rosberg has had a pretty unfortunate season. He was disqualified after he'd finished second at Brazil, disqualified through no fault of his own. And he's only got 8 points so far, and that is assuming that his appeal is successful, which it won't necessarily be. May the 10th. There is Arnoux, third position. And into the pits comes De Angelis to finish his race. Elio De Angelis gets out of the John Player Special with the V6 Renault turbocharged engine on lap 46. And De Angelis was disqualified in Brazil. He didn't finish in Long Beach. He didn't finish in France. He's not finishing here. So he's having a pretty fraught season.
Tambay seems to have responded, and it's all settled down in their very evening match. There goes Patrese sliding through. There's no doubt that you can see that Patrese is really giving it everything he's got, so he's certainly not taking a rest. But Tambay seems to be very smooth and very cool in the front. He's certainly shown a considerable maturity with his front running this year. At the moment that he's been front running, apart from that unfortunate incident at Long Beach, which he might have avoided, he's otherwise driven pretty faultlessly.
Patrick Tambay in sixth position in the World Championship. That's Elio De Angelis. De Cesaris, I'm sorry, Andrea De Cesaris and he's off. He's coming into the pits, De Cesaris. Now, is this to change tyres? Is it because he's got some more terminal trouble? He's going very slowly. He's coasting into the pits. And now Well, there's no frenzied activity. Well, fuel going in. This is the man who was in 5th position, and now that means to say that Keke Rosberg could be moving up. Keke Rosberg, who has been lapped, of course, but there is the race leader, Tombe. We're not staying with him long enough to see how far Patrese is behind, but Patrese is most definitely gaining. We are on lap 48. There is the race leader, Patrick Tombe. It's a 60-lap race. Patrick Tombe has won 1 Grand Prix in his career, and that's the answer to De Cesaris's problem. A great burst of smoke. Off come the belts, and Andrea De Cesaris retires on lap 48, and the positions are Patrick Tombe leading with Patrese catching him. Arnoux is 3rd in the second Ferrari. Prost is 4th in the Renault. 5th was De Cesaris, and now 5th is Rosberg, and that means to say John Watson moves up into the points in 6th position, ahead of 7th Lafitte, 8th Baldi, 9th Serra, 10th Sura, 11th Bozell, and in 12th position Nigel Mansell, the race leader. Now, Tombe is on lap 48. Now, I wonder if we're going to see Patrese. No, we are not. Into the Rivazza. Tombe. The V6 over 600. Look at Patrese. Look at him fairly flying round there. The gap was over 6 seconds, and undoubtedly Riccardo Patrese in the turbocharged Brabham BMW is gaining on Tombe and is the fastest man on the course. The gap is 4.3 seconds at the end of lap 48 with 12 laps to go. Patrick Tombe then is being caught. The crowd is, as you can imagine, silent and metaphorically chewing their fingernails down to the elbow as Chico Serra, who is in 9th position, rejoins the circuit. He had spun off at the Acqua Minerale. 4.3 seconds only between this man, Patrick Tombe, on his now 49th lap out of 60, and giving Riccardo Patrese plenty of time to catch him as he goes into the Acqua Minerale. But then, and we've said this many, many times before, Riccardo Patrese would have the problem of punching his way past the flying Ferrari, with Tombe having every incentive to keep him behind him.
Yes, and a much quicker lap by Patrese. He's reduced the fastest lap by something more than a second, I think, from what he'd done previously. So Patrese has suddenly got, and he's really visibly closing now, so Patrese has got Tombe firmly in his sight, and if you remember at the early part of the race, he was able to pass the Ferrari relatively easily. Patrese is really closing, but he's definitely stepped up his pace a bit, Patrese, because we've just seen another fastest lap, and I think Tombe's doing nothing wrong. He's taking it very steadily up front, but he's got no real answer to Patrese, who's suddenly sort of taken a shot in the arm and really got his finger out.
Well, Tombe has finished extremely well in every Grand Prix this year. He was 5th in Brazil. He was in the lead at Long Beach, and I'm sorry he didn't finish there, of course. He failed to finish, and he was 4th in France. But Riccardo Patrese has yet to score a point. When this lap began, the gap was 3.2 seconds, and I reckon it's less than that. This is lap 50, 5/6 distance. And there is the second place man. Tombe leads, Patrese 2nd, Arnoux 3rd, Prost 4th, Rosberg 5th, Watson 6th, Lafitte 7th, Baldi 8th, Sura 9th, Serra 10th, 11th Bozell, and 12th Winkelhock. Second place Patrese. There he is catching the Ferrari.
It's a very interesting sociological study on the Italian temperament, this, because we've got an Italian car leading and an Italian driver second. It'll be interesting to see whether they prefer cars or people.
Nice one, but I think they prefer cars, especially if it's a Ferrari. There is nothing like a Ferrari. There are flags and banners and shirts and anoraks and hats in profusion. Indeed, you can see the preponderance of red in the crowd in the background. That's because they're all wearing Ferrari jackets. Over the line goes Tombe, over the line goes Patrese. They have both completed 50 laps. The gap is down for 2.3 seconds, with Arnoux 26 seconds behind the leader. Prost 42 seconds behind the leader in 4th place. Rosberg has been lapped in 5th, so has Watson 6th. But now there is Jarier again, who has been termed by some people to be the mobile chicane. And Jean-Pierre Jarier, as they go up the Rettifilio, is still holding Patrick Tombe back, and Riccardo Patrese is gaining.
And Jarier wasn't letting Tombe through, and he's really, it's a driver of his experience. One can only put that down to bloody mindedness, because he can't not know that Tombe was there, and he's just being, I think he's probably sulking because people gave him a hard time after practice, but it really is a bit childish, that sort of attitude.
Lap 51, you are seeing a great closing stage situation in the San Marino Grand Prix here at the Dino Ferrari circuit, as you look at Riccardo Patrese coming up, and yes, Jarier seems to let Riccardo Patrese through much more cleanly than he did Patrick Tombe. Patrick Tombe, a fellow Frenchman, of course, so maybe there is some animosity between Tombe and Jarier. Not that I know of, but it's possible. But anyway, whatever the reason, Riccardo Patrese, as they come through now, the Traguardo on lap 51 is even closer to Patrick Tombe than he was before. It was 2.3 seconds. It is now 1.73 seconds. This is the battle for the lead. 9 World Championship points at stake for the winner. 6 for second place. In third position, it's still Arnoux on his way, hopefully, to 4 points. Ferrari's first and third. Alain Prost in the Renault has been completely outclassed by the Brabham BMW of Patrese and the 2 Ferraris. Keke Rosberg, still the leading Ford Cosworth-powered car in 5th place, and John Watson is still 6th in the points. Patrese. Arnoux in front of him. Flying round the left-hander, the Tamburello. Through the Acqua Minerale. Tombe leading, number 27, and this is lap 52. There have been 2 leaders. One of them has been Tombe, the other has been Patrese, and look at them now.
Well, Patrick Tombe is certainly not settled to try and play a blocking game, because he's giving it absolutely rock all as well. Both drivers really giving it everything they've got, and that's not easy to do at this stage on a hot day when they've been going for something like nearly an hour and a half in cockpit temperatures, one would guess, of something like 120, 130 degrees with this heat, and probably lost something like 6 or 7 pounds or anything up to 10 pounds in liquid through sweat, through sheer hard work. The G-forces that these cars generate means they are very, very hard physically to drive, and the drivers had to be very fit, and to produce this sort of superhuman effort at the end of a Grand Prix, well, is really, I suppose it's the result of adrenaline. They're well adrenaline up now with the battle that's on, and that is what gives them the energy, quite honestly. And Patrese now, no need to time gaps anymore. Patrese is right on Patrick Tombe's tail, and we have, into the closing stages, we have, what, 8 laps to go?
7 laps to go. This is lap 53. 6 laps to go at the end of this one. And now, as James rightly says, we have this intriguing situation of a French driver in an Italian Ferrari car leading an Italian driver in the hated Brabham BMW. The Italian crowd really do not like the Brabham team. It's Chico Serra now in front in the arrows. Chico Serra, who has been driving extremely well in practice, he moves over, he lets them both through, but now Riccardo Patrese, as they come into the Rivazza, is absolutely with the race leader, Patrick Tombe. 54 in this 60-lap race, and just to remind you, René Arnoux is still there in the second Ferrari in third position, and Patrese is right with and trying to go through and take the lead from Patrick Tambay, and in fourth position is Prost, fifth Rosberg, sixth Watson, and Rosberg and Watson have been lapped.
Well, that may have been a little tactical error by Patrese in showing Tambay his nose then when he wasn't really close enough to have a go to try and pass, because although Tambay wouldn't need to be a brain surgeon to work out that that is where Patrese is going to attack him, it's not a good idea really to rehearse the manoeuvre, because it gives Tambay a chance to rehearse his blocking tactics for the next lap. So he knows now for sure where Patrese is going to go. It's about the only real passing opportunity, but at the same time, Patrese will be looking to hustle Tambay into a mistake by doing exactly what he is doing and sitting right up his exhaust pipe, and Tambay will really be feeling the pressure now. But it's the all-important slow corners right before the pits that Patrese's got to get out of a little bit better than he managed last time.
And will he do it? This is Patrick Tambay's 59th Grand Prix, and Riccardo Patrese behind him is in his 85th Grand Prix, and we are coming up to the end of lap 54 in this 60-lap race.
And he did do it a bit better this time. He is marginally closer, still not quite close enough, but he towed up to the back of the Ferrari last time, but not enough to get alongside. He's closing now. The Ferrari, of course, remember, making the hole in the air as they're about to appear under the bridge. We'll see. And Patrese's done it. He's towed past him on the straight. And so that, it's a pity we missed that, but obviously the Brabham got into the draft, and Patrese having a little celebratory twitch, no problem there. That wasn't a mistake. He was just giving a bit of exuberance on the throttle to put the back out. Now he's in the lead, and well pleased he should be. Heading now, he's only got to stand up, and the car's got to hold together to win this race, because he's quicker than Tambay, and Tambay really should have no reply. But Tambay is knocking out Patrese. Oh dear, that's a terrible mistake by Patrese. Only got to stand up, I said, and I have to say that looked like a real bit of Italian temperament from Riccardo Patrese, and the crowd have indeed confirmed that they prefer cars to people, because they've gone wild with delight, which is also fairly standard in their normal sporting behaviour. But here we see it again. Patrese, now he gets off the line onto the marbles and straight off, and that was really just a terrible mistake by Patrese. He obviously his concentration was at fault. That little twitch that I said was exuberant and celebratory when he went through before looked like I'm afraid he just got completely overexcited, or so it would appear. I mean, one has to bear in mind always the possibility that something could have gone wrong with the car. And that's René Arnoux stopped on the circuit. We can't see why. He seems to be trying to get it started again.
Well, what an incredible finish, because this is really going to blow the San Marino Grand Prix wide open. René Arnoux seemingly out of the race, and now Patrick Tambay leads, and that means to say that up to second place will come Prost. Up to third position will come Keke Rosberg, fourth John Watson, fifth Mauro Baldi, and sixth Mark Sura in the arrows in the points again, as René Arnoux joins Patrese's Brabham BMW in the dead car park. And thank heavens Patrese is perfectly all right, which shows how very, very strong modern Grand Prix cars are. We are on lap 56 out of 60. And coming back, yes.
Yes, but it looks as if Arnoux had a spin at the same corner that Riccardo Patrese went off at, and there have been reports of the circuit breaking up, and I think it's probably fair to say that that corner may have got a little bit slippery, because it's probably more than a coincidence that they both went off there. But bearing that in mind, Tambay kept it on the island, other people haven't gone off there, and still that doesn't excuse Riccardo Patrese, because as I was so unpathetically saying, all he had to do was stand up to win. He was not under pressure to go streaking away from Tambay. He knew he was quicker than the Ferrari, and all he had to do, his only job, was to keep it pointing in the right direction on the island, and he failed to do that. A great shame, because he'd driven a wonderful race up till that point, had a bit of a tardy pit stop, which put him out of the lead that he'd worked so hard for, but really that was absolutely unforgivable, because, as I say, all he had to do was take it steady and keep it on the road.
René Arnoux, as you see, has only slipped down to 4th position. And Patrick Tambay, the race leader, on his way to his 2nd Grand Prix win in 2 years, having won at the Hockenheim in Germany last year, is now about 50 seconds ahead of Alain Prost, who is the new 2nd place man. René Arnoux is going well, and Patrick Tambay, and there's is that a Ferrari enthusiast, or is somebody showing the red flag? I think it's an enthusiast whose enthusiasm has overcome him. And there goes Tambay past the car of Patrese. He is now on lap 57, and the race order is Tambay leading. Prost is in 2nd place. In 3rd position is René Arnoux now. In 4th place is Keke Rosberg. In 5th place is John Watson. In 6th place, Mauro Baldi, and the race leader. And with only a couple of laps to go at the end of this one, surely the race winner, Patrick Tambay, is closing up to Jacques Lafitte and Nigel Mansell, both of them in Ford Cosworth-powered cars. Jacques Lafitte is in the Williams, and he is in 8th position now, and Nigel Mansell is in 12th place and over the line into his 58th lap. So there's the 58th, the 59th, the 60th laps to go for the man that you're looking at. Prince Charming, they call him. The extremely good-looking, extremely personable, incredibly fluent English speaker, Patrick Tambay, and there is René Arnoux in 3rd position. So the Tifosi are almost going to see their total dream come true. Ferrari's 1st and 3rd, the total dream would be Ferrari's 1st and 2nd as they were last year. But last year, the Formula One constructor driver teams and the British team withdrew from the San Marino Grand Prix for political reasons, and the opposition that Ferrari had was nothing like as great as it had this year here today. Patrick Tambay then. Well, it's going to have been a superb drive. 27 Tambay leads, 15 Prost 2nd, 28 Arnoux 3rd, 1 Rosberg 4th, 7 Watson 5th, 23 Baldi 6th, 29 Sura 7th, and in 8th position they've got number 6 Patrese. Well, he may be on laps, but he's not going to be doing any more. He's well and truly out of the race, as is his teammate Nelson Piquet. And Nigel Mansell and Keke Rosberg are having a dust-up on the circuit. But Nigel Mansell, of course, is a full lap behind Keke Rosberg, behind Lafitte, as Tambay goes through. He's now on his 59th lap out of 60. In the turbocharged V6 Ferrari, this will be its first victory of 1983, assuming that he does the 6 miles or so that he has still to go. There is René Arnoux going through in 2nd place. And the interesting thing in the Ferrari team is that everybody expected number 28, René Arnoux, carrying Didier Pironi's last year number, to be the better man in the team compared with Tambay, but it has been quite the reverse, because René Arnoux has not had the best of seasons. Admittedly, he finished 3rd at Long Beach, but Patrick Tambay, with 5 points, is ahead of René Arnoux in the World Championship. Tambay is in 6th position, and René Arnoux is 7th, equal with Eddie Cheever, who of course is out of this race. And that is Alain Prost, that we haven't seen for a long time, and he's being caught by John Watson. But Prost is a lap ahead of Watson. There is the race leader. It is Patrick Tambay. He is on lap 59 as he goes into the 125-mile-an-hour 3rd gear bend at the Rivazza. Accelerates his way, and you can see the Ferrari flags waving in the background. The crowd has got the sense of an Italian Ferrari victory in their nostrils, and they love it. Now, Tambay completes very shortly lap 59. He is on his last lap, and I'm sure that we will be going round with him. He is now into the sweeping 180-mile-an-hour left-hander, the Tamburello. A bit of an uphill drag. The Rettifilio, 5th gear. There's Arnoux in third position behind Prost, and that's Nigel Mansell spinning, and he's recovered the car. He just gives it a light tap, and you see that there's no rear wing. He seems to have lost the rear wing of his car, and Patrick Tambay is now up the Rettifilo for the last time.
Yeah, that's a very nasty thing to happen indeed. He lost the rear wing. There you are, you see. So he's installed at the back in a very elegant little pirouette, and Mansell, I have to say, was relatively lucky to get that stopped without further ado or damage. That must have been a terrible frightener for him, because it happened at the fastest part of the circuit, coming in onto the brakes at the end of the main straight. So he said it's all right. And a very poised and very responsible drive by Patrick Tambay. He hasn't really put a foot wrong all the race. He's kept it steady. He's kept his head where others have panicked. And that is one of the Alphas. Stop, but through all the smoke, I can't see who it is.
It's Mauro Baldi, of course. De Cesaris out of the race already. So in the closing stages, Baldi goes out of the race. He was in sixth position, and that means to say that Mark Sura will once again be in the points as into the last almost major bend, the Ravazza, for the last time, the 60th lap. Patrick Tambay is now almost home for his second Grand Prix win, an absolutely magnificent victory. He couldn't have done it in front of a more responsive crowd, and they're already running forward as Tambay tours across the line, goes comparatively slowly, misfiring a bit. He waves with every justification, and the Sam Prost, who has already finished, and we wait for Keke Rosberg to come fourth, Watson fifth, and Sura sixth, and subject to official confirmation, 9 points for victory in the San Marino Grand Prix go to Patrick Tambay in his Ferrari for winning. 6 points go to Alain Prost for finishing second in the Renault. 4 points go to Arnoux for finishing third in the Ferrari. 3 go to Rosberg for finishing in fourth place in the Williams. 2 to Watson for fifth place in the McLaren, and